The 709th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMASGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing the college football and NFL seasons with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Heidi Ho DeGenerinos. Welcome to episode, I don't have it on my screen, 709 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to Dakoba Decheva. Well, we're going to talk about her in a minute. I'm one of your hosts, Big Body Taco Fox, and welcome to the show. No, there is UFC this week, but we this is our typical Sunday regional event coverage, and today it's all about LFA 198, which is going down this coming Friday. So we'll get you the winning picks there in just a moment, after I get the regional MMA guru himself, Daniel Gamble, to come in and maybe talk about how he did with his picks over the weekend. PFL had 3 big shows. We had what else do we have? Lux. Did we do Lux? And we had,
did do Lux.
No. What did we do? We did
Eternal.
That's Gumby. Eternal. Yes, we went to Australia for Eternal, and then we did
Lux Fight League.
Lux, right. Lux. Okay, I was right. All right. Yeah, you Gumby Real. That's his voice. There he is. Hello, sir.
Yeah, we're pretty average across the week. Little over even. And that's using some like real spotty odds, because it turned out the 2 other regional shows we did this week did not have widely available lines. They usually show up on most of the offshores, but Eternal only showed up on an Australian sportsbook they have a partnership with, which is not accessible to the large portion of us. And I saw some odds listed for Lux that I could not find available anywhere. So like it was like one of those like amalgamation sites, and it didn't say who the odds were from, but it did give odds. And I was like, well, I'm going to use these in my spreadsheet, but it's unfortunate that I can't find a place where you can actually place these wagers, especially because I swept Lux. I swept. Yeah, I didn't miss a damn pick on Lux. Did have a cancellation in there, so it made it a little bit easier. But hit all my picks on Lux. 3 out of 5 on Eternal, and then I want to say I was 9-5 with a cancellation or 2 in PFL 2, because we got 1 cancellation due to a headbutt during weigh-ins.
Nice.
And 1 person who
wait a minute, during weigh-ins? What?
Yeah, I think he headbutted somebody during. I didn't see it or hear about it. I just like pulled up the card like during fight night, and or fight morning, I guess is the better way to put it. And I was like, this is not a fight I remember talking about. And I was like, what the hell? And it wound up being the finals of one of the PFL Minas wound up being 2 people who lost in the semifinals. Both guys they lost to. One got injured, and one apparently did some devious stuff. They got himself removed from the card. So it wound up being kind of lame, but altogether we wound up about, it was like 1/3 of a unit on the week. So all's well that ends in the black.
Yeah, exactly. That's the expression. All is well that ends up in the black. That could be the episode title. So are we gonna end? How are you overall? You're way in the black, I know overall. Do you know approximately where you're at?
Yeah, it's about 30. It's just short of 35 units, because I know last week when we recapped, we were like 34-1 or something like that. And like I said, it was up 1/3 of a unit. So I updated the spreadsheets. I didn't go look at the total again because it was largely unchanged. But non-UFC MMA has been a hot spot for us this week. And really the best parts of it typically have been LFA. So you guys have tuned in. You guys have tuned into the right episode.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in, listening, watching, both, whatever you're doing. And definitely get on our Discord, because those people are way into regional MMA.
Yeah.
sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. There's a whole bunch of basically Gumbies in there running around talking about obscure.
Whole bunch of sickos really excited about some PFL finals.
About 3 a.m. Regional fighting going down in Moldova or somewhere. So that's what it's all about. So all right, before we move on, you guys just had Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone in the United States enjoyed their Thanksgiving. We are running a massive merch sale. Is this still going on? It's probably still going on. It's just through today. Sunday. Yeah. And I think the bosses sometimes extend these as well. So huge merch sale, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. is the spot. 25% off when you type in the promo code Black Friday, all one word. That's 25% off everything, including all of our gear, every show's gear, all the stuff we wear on our episodes, all that. Well, not all the stuff, but a lot of the things we wear on our episodes, all that good stuff. So check it out, sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. All right, LFA, as Gumby says, is a very profitable endeavor, and it is going down the most recent, or most current, the next edition, we'll say. LFA 198, Johns versus Douglas, December the 6th, which is Friday, which is good, does not get in the way of our UFC. Commerce, California is where it's happening. In the Commerce Casino and Hotel, we have got a 10 p.m. start time, UFC Fight Pass. We've got 11 fights, and Gumby has picked up pretty much half of them, 5 that he wants to do full breakdowns on. And then we got our patent pending lightning round that we're going to end things off with. And Gumby gives you winning picks there as well. I do not see any odds yet for LFA.
No, they're not. They haven't hit the books yet. They're usually late Tuesday, early Wednesday kind of deal. Sometimes when there's too much MMA going on in the week, sometimes they eke into Thursday. But you should be having them, by midweek.
Once we cover it, they set the line. So they'll be listening carefully for our breakdown of Chris Mecate versus Shaheen Santana. 3 5-minute rounds, 145. That would be featherweight. Tell you about Shaheen Santana. I approve. 8-3 with 6 submissions. He's been submitted once himself. 1-0 in LFA. Win over his last 3. 2-3 over his last 5. 0-1 in Dana White's Contender Series. Who did you lose to, Gumby?
Shaheen Santana was on Dana White's Contender Series.
Yes, I believe so.
He lost to who's the Israeli dude who is, I don't think it's in the UFC anymore, or maybe still is. You know the dude I'm talking about?
Yep, I do. I forget his name too. Yes. Natan Levy.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. There you go. Let me see what else. What else can I tell you? He used to fight at lightweight. He's 4 inches taller than Mecate. Or is it Mecate? Am I saying it correctly?
I think it's Mecate, but I could be wrong.
That's very American.
I'm almost positive that somebody corrected us in the comments last time if we didn't listen.
Yeah, I remember the name. Mecate would be American, not to make it sound fancy at all. So anyhow, Santana's 4 inches taller than him, 5 inches longer than him in terms of reach. Mecate, MC8 is 9-2, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out once, submitted once, so finishing both of his losses. 1-1 in LFA. He's won 3 straight, including his last 5 via TKO. He's a year younger than Santana, and that's all I got. So let her rip.
I'll be quite surprised if Mecate isn't like a -300 favorite here. I kind of expect that to be where the line comes in because like he's got a couple of real nice wins on his record recently. He would have won the Uriah Faber A1 championship in his last fight, but I think he missed weight by a pound, if I'm not mistaken, and wound up not being eligible for the title. Came back over here, now is going to be fighting in LFA. I think he's a really good prospect. He's a high-level wrestler. He actually qualified for nationals at 141 pounds, which is, kind of a difficult weight in NCAAs. There's a lot of dudes at 141. So he qualified. He wrestled at Old Dominion, which is not like maybe the most well-known organization, the most well-known university, but he's wrestling D1, qualified for nationals, and like at a really tough weight class, and has sort of integrated his wrestling game pretty well into what he does in MMA. And if you look at Santana's last fight, he fought a guy who I'm really high on in Isaac Thompson, and he did beat him, but it's almost like how he beat him that I think will make it miserable here for him, is that like he beat Isaac Thompson largely by getting smoked on the feet at all times and then like winning jiu-jitsu positions. And so like it showed me that like he doesn't have much to offer people on the feet. And granted, Mecate is not Isaac Thompson in terms of striking. He's good, but he's not Isaac Thompson. And so like it showed Santana doesn't have much to offer on the feet. He's much slower. He's kind of predictable. And his upside is all in his jiu-jitsu. But when you're up against a wrestler who has integrated his game exceptionally well into the MMA side of things, you sort of don't have a decision where this fight goes, and all of his submission game will have to be on the bottom. Like, I don't think he's going to get any takedowns. I don't think he's going to take the back like he did against Isaac Thompson. So, like, I think Mecate winds up being, despite being the shorter fighter, despite also being a grappler, winds up getting the better of him on the feet. And gets the better of all the jiu-jitsu positions should it make it there. So Chris Mecate, I think probably going to be a big favorite, but I still on him right here.
All right. So how big did you say?
I said like negative 300-ish.
Okay. I'll try to pay attention going forward, but I can't promise anything, Gumby, because once you start talking, I tune out. But hopefully our listeners don't. No, they don't. Our listenens don't. They catch you on everything that you say. All right. That was our first fight that we're going to cover, obviously. Let's move on to, we're skipping some. So what's next? Actually, no, we're doing, we're going up the fight card a bit. That's usually the way it works, doesn't it? Yeah. Miller and Barros is next fight, correct? Welterweight.
Arthur Barros, Ty Miller.
Arthur Barros from Brazil, Ty Miller from the United States of America. 3 5-minute rounds, 170 pounds. Miller is 5-0 with 2 knockouts. 1-0 in LFA. Won his last fight via TKO. 1-0 as a pro boxer. 2 years younger than Barros. 3 inches of height. Baby Monstro is Barros' nickname. And you guess what that could be?
Baby Monster. Baby Monster.
Yes, Baby Monster or Monster Baby. He's 4-1 with 4 submissions. He's been knocked out once. Lost his last fight via TKO. That was back in March of 2023. He's not won since November 2022. So a couple years since having his hand raised.
So I think Ty Miller, because of those recent fights for Barros, is going to wind up being the favorite here. I don't think too exorbitantly because, they're both kind of green and Barros does have some success on his record there. So I'm going to say like Ty Miller, negative 225, maybe 215. And I like him in this fight. I am a touch worried about what happens when he has to defensively wrestle because I haven't really seen too much of it. He's a really, really long welterweight. He fights long. He generates a lot of power for how skinny and wiry he is. It sort of comes from being one of those like hands low kind of guys. And he picked up a knockout in his last fight, and it was absolutely devastating. Like he put the dude away. And, while I'm worried about the wrestling defense for Miller, because I haven't really seen it, I actually don't worry about it all that much against Barros because Barros, for 2 reasons. Number one, I've seen his takedowns. They're not particularly good. He's good at jiu-jitsu. I think once he gets you down, his jiu-jitsu game is kind of nasty. I just think he has trouble getting a lot of people down. So there's like sort of a little bit of a buffer for Ty Miller right there. As long as he has adequate takedown defense, he should avoid the crappy ones there. And then the other one is that like on the feet, Miller should style on him. Barros' hands are very low, but not in the same way as Miller uses them, where he's like super lightweight and he's bouncing and he's, getting in a range and out of range. His hands are just low because he like moves forward like a rock'em sock'em robot does. And like that's probably the best way to describe his striking style is he's very robotic. His punches look very labored, even early in the fight. It looks like he's putting every single thought into what he's doing to make sure that punch comes through the way he wants it to. It just doesn't come naturally to him. Like once he's on the mat, he looks like he knows what he's doing and he flows through everything. When he's on the feet, it looks like it's taking all of his mental energy. So for me, I think the boxing of Ty Miller is going to be too much for Barros here. He should be able to, piece him up whenever he wants to. And then in addition to that, the fact that Barros struggles with the takedowns, I think hopefully means Ty Miller keeps enough distance and winds up winning this one on the feet. So give me Ty Miller. Would not be surprised if he landed a big knockout in there based on the power I've seen from him lately.
All right. Sound is good. All right. Let's move on and tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Did you know Underdog Pick'em is one of the biggest menus for all sports? You did, because I've told you about it before. They got NFL, college football, while it lasts, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. We like more as well. And you can now use specials and boosts in all your flex entries. Maybe Gumby has a play for you. Who's to say?
Sure, I'm not sure we'll get this to you by the Sunday night football game, so we might as well hit up the Monday night football game. We got Broncos and the Browns. Bo Nix has been surprisingly hot lately, so I'm going to take the higher than on Bo Nix's passing yards. He's been over 270 in 3 of his last 5, so I like the trend for that man.
All right, Bo Nix is the way, Gumby says. Here's what you do: take Gumby's advice, or don't, either or, and sign up with our code MMASGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code MMASGPN. All right, now back to Commerce, California, for the LFA 198 card. We are moving on up the fight card to we're getting away from the baby monsters and we're going to a lightweight fight. Kohl Laren from the United States of America. Ilay Barzilay from Israel, I believe. Correct? Yes.
Yep.
Israel, 3 5-minute rounds if they need it. Barzilay, 5-0 with 3 knockouts, 3-0 in LFA. TKO win in his last fight. 6 years younger than Laren. But Lerryan is Mr. Violence, so look out. 4-2 with 4 knockouts. Never been finished himself. This is his debut in LFA. He's won 2 straight fights, both via TKO, because that's how he rolls. That's all I got.
So I'm going to guess Barzilay, huge favorite here, right? We got a guy who's 4-2, hasn't fought in LFA yet, versus a guy who's fought a whole bunch in LFA and is undefeated at 5-0, right? You got to imagine Barzilay negative 425, the way the books look at this. And this is the perfect opportunity to exploit the books for only looking at what records look like and where people fight. Because I like Kohl Laren quite a bit in this fight. If you watch Ilay Barzilay in his past fights, got pretty good takedown defense. On the feet when he's moving forward and he's confident in himself, looks good, picks up TKOs, like everything you could watch. But like if you watch his last fight, when somebody turns up the pressure on him, this dude panics. This dude does not like being made to walk backwards in a fight. He looks like it really bothers him in terms of in terms of almost everything, like in terms of defense, in terms of turning around his own offense, in terms of, whatever, his fundamentals sort of go out the window when he's pressured. And I managed to get my hands on some film of Kohl Laren because it was actually not that easy based on the promotions he fought for. But like this dude marches forward and he gets after it. And it's kind of exciting to watch. He throws this like really brutal, it's a leg kick from his rear leg, and it's, he's left-handed, so you see it from the left side. And he throws it to the body. He throws it to the calf. Really powerful stuff. He loves a step-in elbow. He's like a big step-in elbow guy. And he refuses to take a step backwards. And he generates a lot of power with his shots. He's got some knockouts on his record to speak of. And look, they're real knockouts. They're not like regional scene, I wanted to get out of here kind of ones. So, like, from what I've seen from Kohl Laren, he is what should be Ilay Barzilay's worst nightmare, a guy who doesn't want to take a step backwards and generates a lot of power. So I don't know what Kohl Laren's grappling would look like. I never have seen it. Like, it's just not come up in the fights I've seen. I don't know that Barzilay wants to grapple anyway. So, like, if this takes place in the feet, give me Kohl Laren here. I'm guessing like 3 to 3.5 to 1.
Fantastic. There's hopefully the big stab of the week. Well, maybe not. Maybe he's got even bigger picks to come. Let's see what the Topology folks think. Laren 8%. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and that's again, a lot of times you can use those Topology numbers to sort of line these fights. Not always, because like sometimes the books are a little bit sharper, or the money comes in early. But like when a guy's 4-2 versus 5-0, and the 5-0 guy's already been in LFA, those books just automatically assume, and same with the Topology cappers out there, they automatically assume that guy's way better, and I just don't think that's the case here.
Yep. All right, co-main event time, or at least we assume they'll keep one of these gentlemen in the co-main event. It originally was supposed to be a Richie versus Richie fight for the LFA Lightweight Championship. One of the Richies dropped out. The champ dropped out, right? Richie Lewis? No, is this the champ?
Yeah, Richie Lewis dropped out.
All right.
I have no idea why.
Yeah,
no, it's not interim. I saw a comment on Richie Miranda's Instagram about why is it not an interim. I think the level of opponent they could get him just wasn't high enough for them to consider it. Wouldn't surprise me if this sort of like falls down the card a little bit. Although Richie Miranda's got a big enough name that like he could carry an LFA card too. So from all I know now, this is a 3 5-minute round regular lightweight fight.
So Richie Miranda, as Gumby mentioned, is one half of it. The other guy, his name is the other guy. Put some respect to his name. Hugo Oyarzun. Is that how you say it?
Oyarzun. Yeah.
Oyarzun. He is stepping in on less than a week's notice, around a week's notice, I guess, right?
I heard about it yesterday, Saturday.
Yeah,
so
Saturday. So there you go. All right, we'll tell you about Oyarzun first. La Machina, the machine, is 8-3, 1 knockout, 3 submissions. He's been submitted twice. His short notice debut in LFA, he's won 4 of his last 5. However, he did lose his last fight. He's fight at featherweight and welterweight. Miranda is El Machete, so the machine versus the machete. 9-1, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's never been finished in a fight himself. 6-1 in LFA. He's won 3 straight. He's 3 years younger than Oyarzun, whatever.
Yeah, originally I was on Richie Lewis in this fight. No shade on Richie Miranda, but the short notice, the change of opponents, all that. I'd be shocked if Richie Miranda wasn't -500, -750, some exorbitant number that inches towards 4 figures by fight time. I got a little look at Oyarzun. He kind of just looks like a discount version of Richie Miranda, to be honest. Richie Miranda's thing has always been like, he's pretty violent on the feet when he gets a chance to strike. He doesn't stay there too long because he knows his defense isn't great. Winds up shooting a bunch of takedowns, has above average offensive wrestling, slightly below average defensive wrestling. And you could say kind of the same thing for Oyarzun, only like you could say he has average wrestling and well below average defensive wrestling. I think Oyarzun has fought kind of like really bad competition. He's coming off of a loss. Pretty much anytime he stepped up in competition, I think he fought Jose Ferreira earlier in his career too. Anytime he's stepped up in competition against guys with like a halfway decent record and things like that, he's like faltered. It's been hard for him. And Richie Miranda is that step up, and it's happening on short notice. So, this is a fight where originally I was like, Richie Miranda ain't wrestling Richie Lewis. There ain't no way he's wrestling Richie Lewis. And I thought he was going to, lose that fight pretty handedly. He got out wrestled by Keegan Ginrich, and Lewis had out wrestled Ginrich too. So not that MMA math always MMA maths, but now I think they're giving him a favorable enough matchup. It should be an easy win for him, and maybe he can get that fight with Lewis rebooked.
All right, there you go. A big favorite after a big dog. That's the way it rolls. All right, before we get to our main event, which has not fallen off, at least not yet, let's tell you about mybookie.ag. We are brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years. Check out their new and improved website, great on mobile. Plus, they have props for every game and the live dealer casino. Even new early cash out options are available. Check out the MMA odds over at mybookie.ag. Head over there and use our promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. And SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build you a model. You now track your props in the Rhythm app. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, and NBA. Rhythm has it all, including Al Horford player props. Check those out and claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RTHMM. And now to our main event. It was supposed to be a double gold evening. We lost our co-main event, but the main event still for the championship. LFA featherweight championship. Elijah Johns versus Lerryan Douglas. So US versus Brazil. And it is 5-minute rounds, 135. Douglas is gunslinger. He is 11-5, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, submitted twice, 3-1 in LFA. He is the interim champ. So yes, this is not just a title fight. This is a unification bout. He's won 3 straight fights and 4 of 5. All of those have ended via TKO. Regional champion, 2013 pro MMA debut. Used to fight at bantamweight, an inch of reach over the champ Johns. Johns is 10-2 with 1 no contest, 3 knockouts, never been finished in a fight. 8-2 with 1 no contest in LFA, and the current champion. He won the belt in his last fight. 3-0 with 1 no contest over his last 4, including winning the belt, as I said, last time out. He's not lost since March 2021.
So for this one, I'm having a tough time figuring out where the books will line it, because on one hand, Elijah Johns is sort of on a pretty impressive run when you look at the score sheets, right? He's won a few in a row with the no contest squeezed in there. He's the champ. He's a little brother of a dude who is in the UFC, and obviously that doesn't hurt. And like all of those things. But then when you watch that no contest, do you know why it was a no contest?
No, I can't remember.
He was deep in an arm triangle from Javier Garcia. Deep in an arm triangle. The ref determined he went out without even touching him, and then pulled Javier Garcia off, handed Javier Garcia the belt. They got the replay on it, took it away. But the fact of the matter is, he got taken down and owned on the mat by Javier Garcia. He probably would have made it to the end of the round. Who knows, would he have survived that fight? It's possible. But the fact of the matter is, he got badly out-wrestled by Javier Garcia, and his jiu-jitsu wasn't up to snuff with Javier Garcia. And this, to me, is a problem, because for me, that's what Elijah Johns is good at. Elijah Johns is good at being the wrestler. He's good at being the hammer. So, like, how are books going to line the champ basically losing the way the champ wins? You know what I mean? And that's tricky for me. So I'm going to say John's probably still a favorite, but probably not a lot. I'm going to say like negative 145 to like a plus 125 on the underdog for Lerryan Douglas. And I'm going to take Lerryan Douglas. Lerryan Douglas has cashed for us twice this year as a huge underdog one time and a small underdog the second time. When he beat Javier Garcia, and also when he beat Nate Garib in Brazil that time. I think he was like a 3-1 underdog against Nate Garib when it posted. So I'm going to ask for him to be an underdog again here, please. And it's just because I love the power. When this dude starts landing on people, he's relentless until the fight's over. He knocked out Nate Garib, who is a hell of a grappler. Props to Nate Garib. I'm a big fan. But he knocked out Nate Garib. Nate Garib didn't get a chance to fall down. That's how often he was being hit. He was out, and he couldn't fall down because he was getting hit too much in the face. And like in the Javier Garcia fight, I was just talking about, what Javier Garcia did to Elijah Johns on the mat. Douglas stuffed the takedowns. Douglas forced that man to rest or to box with him. And nobody really wants to box with Lerryan Douglas. Lerryan Douglas, since he had that kind of like nasty run and his record looked kind of ugly there for a second, he has just been blasting faces since then. Like he's just absolutely knocking people out. I'm a big fan of Lerryan Douglas's style. I think it's a nightmare for Johns because all he's got to do is stuff Johns a couple of times here. Johns is going to realize he's got to box with him and it's not an option. So I like Lerryan Douglas here. Again, hoping to hit the dude 3 times in the same year as an underdog. Which would make him a patron saint of the podcast, I think. Lerryan Douglas here for the belt.
Get him into the UFC if that's the case, for sure. All right.
I think here's a quick recap on him probably never going to the UFC, though.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate to say this. I love Lerryan Douglas. I think he's exciting. He's exactly the type of fighter that the UFC would want. He also trains and is represented by the same people as Cyborg.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And Cyborg, every single time he wins, is like tooting his horn on Twitter and stuff like that. And I could just see Dana White circling that name on a piece of paper and being like, do not admit.
Yes. Yep. No, that's the petty man that he is. So very, very true. All right. Let's recap and then we'll get you some bonus picks. Don't you take off yet. He's got Douglas, Miranda, Laren, Miller, Mecate. Right?
That's right.
Later round, zap, bang, boom. No lightning here today. We got snow, though. Lots and lots of snow.
Yeah, I got, first of all, the first one I'm going to give you is of no surprise to anybody. She's going to be squeezed in between some of these fights on here, but literally I didn't break it down because I thought the odds were going to be too wide, not worth betting, and like also no breakdown to give. Bia Mosqueda should win. But she'd probably be negative 2,000 or something like that. I'm still going to throw her in there just in case that number is playable. But Bia Mosqueda, she is nasty on the mat. She's really freaking good. She's got an absolute laundry list of grappling matches before her. She's looked good in her 2 MMA fights that she's had. They put her in there against the girls 2-4. Even if she did not have the grappling pedigree she had, 2-0 versus 2-4 and an LFA fight, usually garners pretty high odds anyway. So, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention her because she's probably going to be on this main card anyway. The other one I'm going to take James Romero over Jake Woodley. It might be surprising to some people that I don't like Jake Woodley as much as other people do. I think James Romero, kind of interestingly, I think he does a lot of things better than Jake Woodley. So I think, 2-0 to a 4-0 here. You might be able to get really juicy number, especially because, like I said, people are high on Jake Woodley. And I just, for some reason, like James Romero, a little bit more than Jake Woodley. So give me Romero and Bia Mosqueda.
All right. There you go. You're all set for LFA 198. If you want picks for the other, 4 fights or whatever that we didn't cover, hit Gumby up. We are in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We are, of course, checking our comments on YouTube MMA Gambling Podcast. Make sure you subscribe there. Thank you in advance. That's not a word. Advance is a word, though. You can check us out on the Twitter X at SGPN MMA. Gumby is at Gumby Reeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer there and on Instagram. Check out my Substack at moneymma.substack.com. Pick'em contest up and running again this week with the UFC back. And Gumby has the Top Turtle MMA podcast where he interviews interesting people from the MMA world. Do we know who's on it this week?
No, we are TBD at the moment.
Okay. Hopefully TBD is very talkative. So check out Top Turtle MMA Podcast. And of course, we're at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. So you can get some gear. Remember, Black Friday, try that code. Even if it's past Sunday, try it. Sometimes the bosses are generous and they keep it going. And of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. So you can get some extra content. So back tomorrow, it'll be Gumby Monstro. It'll be Mr. Violence, Jeff Fox. We will talk to you then.